Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine O'Hare Rogers. I got married, so my name's a little bit different. I am the Chief Compliance Officer and the Vice President of MARR. And we have two people that are going to be speaking today. Is Jeff Van Treese on? Kayla, were you able to reach out to Jeff?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. No, I was not. So he must not be on today.
So I know Chris. Chris is going to be speaking. We had somebody else that's going to speak first.
Our first speaker is Christina Nichols.
Perfect. Is Christina on?
I'm sorry, Cynthia. Cynthia Nichols.
Cynthia.
Are you on today?
There she is. Cynthia Nichols. Saw the name on here, Cindy Nichols. It's disappeared.
Hi,
All
how are
right.
you?
Oh, there she is. Okay.
Hi, Cindy. Sorry about the name.
Hi.
The name.
No, thanks for having me.
So yeah, welcome. Go ahead and you have to share with us today.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, happy to share. Sorry, I wasn't late, was I? This
No,
No.
you're
isn't
fine.
okay, good. Um, do you mind if I share like a brief PowerPoint? It's like 3 minutes. It
Yeah,
might be
sure.
helpful. Okay, cool. Thanks. And all right, looking good for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so my name's Cindy. I'm from University of Connecticut School of Social Work, and I'm conducting a study for my dissertation. I'm in my 4th year of the PhD program there. Just so you know a little bit about me, I formerly worked as a clinical social worker in Boston in different substance use settings. And that's really what led me to be on this path and start my research interests. And Dr. Margaret Lloyd-Seeger at UConn is on my dissertation committee, as well as Amy Miracle, who's very involved with NAR, if any of you have met her or worked with her. So this study is really looking at different factors associated with houses that do and do not accept medications for opioid use disorder. So methadone, Suboxone, Vivitrol, any sort of MOUD. And the purpose of this is really to understand characteristics of different house programs and how they impact the use of MOUD and within recovery residences. And you do not have to accept MOUD to take this survey. We really welcome perspectives from all houses. And characteristics that we're asking about can include things like house culture or funding sources, things of that nature. So it takes about 50 to 30 minutes. I do have a very small incentive because it's my dissertation. I have sort of a low budget for this, but it's a $10 electronic gift card from Amazon. To get the gift card, you do have to complete 90% of the survey and get to the end of the survey to leave your email. Otherwise, I will have no way of sending it to you. And we ask that if you are a house owner of multiple residences, that if you have a house manager, you have them take it just so that we can increase the response rate. And again, you don't need to accept MOUD to qualify to take the survey. One other note is that in the beginning, I do ask name and house name and email address, or email address at the end. But the reason I ask this is just to verify that there's an actual person taking the survey. I know that can be off-putting to have to put that information. That will not be shared. There just can be risk of bot attacks with online surveys. So that's the only reason we ask. And again, that won't be shared. So why we're doing this is really just to better understand sort of the climate of the use of MOUD in recovery residences. We do believe this will benefit recovery residences to just, again, understand more about what's going on. Obviously, this is a very crucial time for people in recovery when they are entering these houses. And yeah, hopefully will just bring attention to it and also the great work that you all are doing. So that's it. And I have the link here. I can put that in the chat along with my contact information. Feel free to email me, call me if you have any questions at all. I believe some of you have probably already taken this, but if you haven't, I would really appreciate it. And I will stop sharing now.
Okay, I saw that Jeff is on. Jeff? And Treese, you're muted. Do you have any
I'll learn how to
questions?
use. I'll learn how to use this computer. Just give me another 5-10 years. Yeah. So Cindy, I have a quick question. Are you doing this outside the state of Michigan? And if so, what other states are you doing this in?
Looks like your screen is frozen. Just cutting in and out a little bit. Well, while we're waiting for Cindy to, can you hear us now, Cindy?
Oh, I can, it keeps freezing on me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's going in and out. Did you hear Jeff's question?
No, I apologize. Am I back now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
You're
so
now
sorry.
back.
I think my Zoom is glitching. I'm back in the universe. I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the question? I totally
Yeah, the
missed
question
that.
on the floor is, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate it. I was just wondering what other states, if any, is this survey going to be
Yeah.
covering?
Yeah, so I have it in about 20 states right now. I really just, it was sort of reaching out to states to see interest if they'd participate. So a lot of New England states, Connecticut, Maine, Vermont, and then let's see what else, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Washington, sort of all over the map, Virginia, any state that expressed interest, I included. But yes, I can give you the full list if that would be helpful. I just can't remember all the states off the top of my head.
I just wanted to determine whether it was a single state or a multi-state. So it sounds to me like you're doing about half the states. So that's
Yeah. Yeah. So it's multi-state. I started out small and then I realized I needed to cast a wider net. And so yeah, it's about 20 states right now. Hoping to recruit more, but just because it's my dissertation, I'm on sort of a timeline. I do have to close the survey in the next couple months and start my data analysis. So hopefully this will continue when I graduate and I can make it bigger is the hope.
Well, I remember talking to Amy Miracle 10 years ago, and she's now gotten to the point where she's a leading authority on the subject of recovery residences. So I look forward to watching your mediatric growth over the next 10 years, and you'll be the next William White, Amy Miracle coming down the line. So,
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Thank you for saying that. Very, very nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully that's my trajectory. We'll see. But yeah, I'm afraid to open my PowerPoint again because I don't want it to freeze. But once I've answered all the questions, I will, and I'll post the link in the chat.
Are there any other questions? Feel free to speak up. Okay, Cindy, you want to go ahead and put
I
your
had one
presentation in?
question. I just had
Okay.
to find my unmute button quick enough. I know that there's camps saying, oh, we should include it. There's camps that say we should not include that type of treatment in the in recovery houses. And I was just curious right now, is it like a 50-50 split of people, organizations like it and not liking, or is it 80-20? A lot of people like it now. Kind of what's the current viewpoint?
Yeah, so are you asking me so I think viewpoints are pretty split still. I'm not sure about exact percentages. I think in terms of the survey results I've gotten back so far, because obviously, it's a convenient sample and certain people may not feel comfortable taking the survey. I think most of the houses I've surveyed are accepting it. But again, that's maybe not a representative sample, so it's hard to tell. And that's sort of like the nature of these studies is you're not necessarily going to get a representative sample. It's harder to do that. But I think that makes it sort of more difficult to tell.
Okay.
But I'm sure working in the field, you've heard both sort of viewpoints, and I'm sure, I mean, that's sort of what I've received in working in the field is those different perspectives.
In Michigan,
that's fair enough.
Preston, in Michigan, Preston, all but 2 of the recovery residences of our 86 operators accept MAT. And I think that's, from what little I can tell, I think that's the national trend. There's very little opposition now compared to what it used to be 3-4 years ago.
Well, with there now being the Vivitrol shot and other things available so that they don't have to bring the medications into the home, they don't have to be monitored. There's really, I can't think of a reason not to allow it in your program anymore, at least part of it. So we'll look to see who those 2 operators are and reach out to them as well. So it's nice to see at least 99% of our operators are doing it.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thanks for letting me know that. Great to hear. So yeah, I just put the survey link in there. I'll include my contact info. Just one more note, if you could not post this on Facebook or any public platforms, I'd greatly appreciate that too, because those bots just love to go on those public platforms.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming, Cindy. Appreciate it.
Well, I just got notification that my internet is unstable right now because everything froze. So if I cut out,
What's going on?
yeah, Keela, it's all you. So we have another person speaking today. Thank you, Cindy, for your time. You're welcome to stay on if you'd like. Chris Pompey with Reach Sober Living wanted to talk a little bit more of what you brought up a few months ago with the transportation that you've started. Go ahead, Chris, you're muted.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations, Catherine, on marriage, getting married. Yes, so Chris Pompey, Reach Sober Living. I want to talk a little bit about something I believe I presented a couple months ago, and it's called RSL Transportation LLC. About a year ago, I reached out to an organization called Ascension Recovery Services out of West Virginia. And we started a feasibility study and market analysis on transportation barriers to treatment services in Southwest Michigan. So once I got those results, of course, those results caused me to want to start a business, which I did. So we started RSL Transportation. And basically what RSL Transportation is, it's a transportation service designed like Uber. We actually have an app, and the way the app works is it mimics Uber in a sense of providing immediate rides to transportation services throughout Southwest Michigan. The difference with RSL is we only hire recovery coaches and peer support specialists as the drivers. What we're doing right now is we're working on a pilot program with a local organization here in Kalamazoo called Community Healing Center. Right now, they have exclusive rights to the app. The hope is once we finish with the pilot, we can release the app to the whole Southwest Michigan through other supportive services. So basically, we are a non-medical transportation service. So we don't provide any transportation services for emergency needs. So if someone's to call and say, hey, we believe someone may be overdosing or they're detoxing and it's not going well and they need transportation to the emergency room, we will not provide transportation for that particular service. We are a non-medical transportation recovery service that does not provide transportation service for medical needs, only recovery services. So that's detox, treatment, or individuals that need rides to counseling services, anything that's recovery oriented. And what we found in our local area of Kalamazoo was the individuals that we're piloting this program with, they were using a taxi service for years. And basically what they said to us through the research was a lot of our clients were faced with individuals that were driving the vehicles that reminded them of their past. Some of them were even offered drugs during the rides to their recovery services. So,
Wow.
yeah, so they were, ecstatic to be the first one to pretty much join us for this pilot program. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. The drivers do have to go through an extensive background check. I'm in recovery. I know I have a checker pass. So we're, with the background check, we're only looking for certain things. The drivers will utilize their own vehicle. They utilize their own vehicles, as well as we have 2 cars that we own ourselves. So that's labeled a fleet service. They do have to carry insurance, extra insurance policy. And when we say it works just like Uber, they get paid immediately, just like Uber after the ride. Because of the pilot program, we were able to pretty much get a certain amount of funding up front to pay the drivers that's working within the pilot program. That's kind of synopsis of it.
So did you as an operator, did you have to change your insurance as well, since you have these basically contractors working for you? Do you have to also cover them under your insurance policy?
So not under Sober Living, but we did have to have a large insurance policy under RSL Transportation. So RSL Transportation, although it's connected to Reach Sober Living is a nonprofit. RSL Transportation is a for-profit model. So the insurance is different from what we have to carry for Reach Sober Living. As well as each driver, like Uber, has to carry an extra insurance policy, which we kind of pay them for. Is like $25, $35 extra on their insurance policy, but we cover that as well.
How many drivers do you have so far?
10.
10?
Yes.
And how long have you been up and running?
So the pilot program actually just launched about 30 days ago.
Okay.
Is this
Have
something
you had
you're
a-
hoping to expand like across the country?
Well, the hopes is once the pilot is done, we'll expand throughout Southwest Michigan. Then the hope is that we can take RSL to different treatment organizations throughout the country and can create sort of a franchise model. And we would hold exclusive rights to the actual tech that we built within the model.
Awesome.
I have 2 questions, Chris.
Yes, sir.
First question is, have you copyrighted or do you have plans on copywriting the Discovery or the Recovery Uber app?
Well, we wasn't really able to set up for a utility patent because, to be honest with you, Recovery Centers of America did this many years ago. If you look it up, they actually did a pilot program with Lyft. So because of that, we couldn't actually model the total recovery pattern to get a patent on it, but we can get a patent, just not the utility of it, of how the app is built.
Okay, all right. Then my second question is, I'd like you to speak to the MARR monthly group at some point. I'll give you a time in May.
Okay.
But this makes so much sense, and to see that it's happening here in the Kalamazoo area is wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, yeah.
So how busy have you been? It's been going for 30 days. I'm sure you reached out to all the treatment facilities, and because this
It's
can
been-
take people to their meetings as well, right?
Yes. It's really been scary, to be honest with you, if I can actually use that, because we know the need is great. But actually working with this entity on a pilot is kind of exclusive to their treatment center and their services. But because we actually put it in the atmosphere, we are also testing it on other models, like taking people to the Odyssey House, taking people to Skywood. Now some of these treatment centers actually have their own vehicles, but what we found out, which was interesting, was a lot of treatment centers or recovery services don't actually have the proper insurance for their staff to be transporting residents or clients. So we have been getting some calls to expand. So it's been pretty busy.
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
Chris, I just want to say congratulations for, for thinking outside the box, so to speak, so congratulations with that.
Yeah. Thank you, Crystal.
Yeah.
It's definitely a need. That's a very smart idea for sure.
Chris, do you and your team, do you define as the need is for like communities that do not have a public bus line? Or does it really not matter how good the public service option is? It could be used everywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It pretty much can be used anywhere, because if you think of it honestly, if someone has an immediate need to get the drug treatment and they're ready to go right then and there, speaking, from my past experience of being in recovery, I'm not getting on the bus. Right.
Okay.
If you really think about it, we know that when someone says, yes, I'm ready to go to drug treatment, that's a split decision. You're only working with so much time, right? Then depending on the community you in, getting on the bus can look just like some of the neighborhoods that our residents are faced with throughout their daily travels. The other thing is that when you think about the recovery coaches and the peer support specialists doing the actual transporting, you got somebody in the car that kind of understand what you may be going through, right? So it's not guaranteed that they're going to have a conversation with them. And that's some of the things that we're hearing now. Some individuals get in the car and they don't want to talk. Some individuals get in the car, they can't stop talking because they found someone that has a commonality between them that they can have a conversation with, that kind of eases that anxiety as they're going to their services or to treatment, which helps, right? I know when my last round with treatment, nobody in my family wanted to give me transportation to get there. It was just like, go, right? But that's definitely a good question, because some of the communities do have transportation provided, some good transportation. But when you think of the transport, it kind of changes things in a sense.
So I know there's a couple operators, I think, throughout the state that are trying to do the same thing, well, kind of similar. But you're the only one that I'm aware of that's actually working with strictly recovery coaches and peer support as the drivers, which is huge. Yeah. It makes me want to bring up too the UFAM rally, Unite to Face Addiction rally, to everybody. This is May 16th. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this is the 7th anniversary, the 7th rally that they've had at the Capitol. And there's still time to get a booth for as little as $100. Chris, I would highly recommend you look up the UFAM rally and others as well. Get a booth for $100, or you spend more if you want, and put your information out. And it's a way to network and see other operators and treatment facilities and other things throughout the state. There's always a band going and singing and speakers and food. So just to remind everybody, but again, Chris, what a great opportunity for you to be able to set up a table and actually share your information as well. Again, so for everybody, that's the UFAM rally. It's May 16th. It's from 10 a.m. to 4.
Can I try something real quick? I'm not tech savvy as everybody else, but I want to try to show something if it would show.
Sure.
So this is, can everyone see this?
Yep.
Okay, so this is kind of the back end, so I'm actually showing you some exclusive stuff right here. So this is kind of the actual back end of how it actually looks. So this is actually, if, once it's released to the public, meaning that you can actually download it on Apple or Android. Right now you can't, but once we release it to, like someone asked earlier, where we can use it nationwide or even in other areas, you can download it on Apple or Android. You'll actually see RSL Transportation app. You'll log in, you'll sign up, request a ride. Here you see the vehicles, and then this is a payment. So this is pretty much how it looks. And if you think about Uber, it's almost simultaneously to how Uber looks. So it's user-friendly, not hard at all. The individuals that's using it now, 2 of them are Uber drivers, so they got it super quick. So I just wanted to share that.
Now this is only available on the Apple app.
No, this is right now, we only have it released for the organization that we're doing the pilot with.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But once we finish the pilot, which is set to be the end of August, we'll release it, and then we'll release it to the community. However, once it's released, and when I say the community, you still have to be a peer support specialist or a recovery coach to even do the application process.
Now, do they have to they just finished their training, or is this a recovery coach that has had their time in? So you have to practice.
Certified already. Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone have any questions for Chris?
I have one. I think Uber drivers get about 50% of the total fee gets back to the driver. What type of breakout do you have, if you're willing to tell people? So that
75%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 75% goes to the operator, but they have to be more qualified than the average Uber driver because they're a peer recovery coach or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're a peer recovery coach. Now, when you do the numbers and you think about, Kalamazoo, 200 some thousand people, 70 some thousand in the city, sometimes you think about, well, how many rides can you give, Chris? And does this make sense? And can you make a whole lot of money off of it? Once we expand, then you get into, of course, the numbers, right? But right now, the goal is just getting individuals mobilized and getting them safe to recovery services. And we're providing jobs outside of the norm of what recovery coaches and peer support specialists are receiving throughout the recovery community. So that's how we're looking at it.
Yeah.
Do you have all 10 drivers going every single day, or do people have a little schedule? I guess how do you keep track of people?
So 5 are going right now, and the other 5 is just reserved.
Oh, okay.
Again, when you think about Uber runs 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Recovery services at the longest, I think the last intake through the research found that most treatment centers will only do the last intake sometimes between 6 and 7 p.m. Right? Counseling centers in the summertime, Some services stay open to 8 p.m. It just depends. So the difference is Uber runs 24 hours a day,
Mhm.
where we stop at 8 p.m.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I was wondering if there's been difficulty with people like wanting rides, but maybe not able to get one because there's only so many drivers or not a driver available
Yeah.
or that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And the reason we started the pilot program with the organization we're working with, because again, they had an exclusive deal with a local cab company for years. So they've been running all their rides through this cab company. This cab company been taking clients everywhere throughout Southwest Michigan. After they finish detox, if they need to go to treatment, they would take them there, services within the city. And unfortunately, it wasn't working out to the best of their knowledge.
Gotcha.
I can see how a treatment facility or recovery residents would love that kind of service, especially if they have an intake coming from treatment, to get that gentle handoff versus, I hope they get here and I hope they get here clean and sober, right? So.
And then you have the other side to it, Catherine, to throw out too, and this is kind of another thing we're working on. It's called companionship. So we've helped individuals get to Dallas, right? Flying them to Dallas. We haven't went, but through some organization I worked with, we paid for a ticket for an individual to go to treatment in Dallas because they wanted to be close to a family member. But think about the companionship of that, the anxiety that individual had on that plane by herself. And it was simple as following that model. During COVID, me and my wife, we purchased a pet from California. That pet came all the way from California with a companion to deliver that pet safe, right? So why not, mimic the same model as companionship? If someone wants to go outside of the state, we're not going to drive them there, but we'll fly you there.
That's smart. That'd be a great idea.
So Chris, my question is for, say if a sober living, once y'all get up and out and, and say if one of our sober livings did want to utilize your service to get someone from a treatment center to our home, what would that look like to the sober living home?
Great
Cost-wise.
question. Well, no, great question, Crystal. So it wouldn't cost you anything. Hopefully you have a recovery coach or a peer support specialist that work within your home, and they just register on the app, fill out the application, they go through the training. It's just like Uber.
Oh, okay.
And they start driving.
Okay.
How long is the training, Chris?
It's 14 days right now. Only
Is it
because
all online?
some online, some in person, only because we're finding out, and I don't know what if you guys know this, but we're finding out that some of the peer support specialists or recovery coaches didn't hold a CPR certification. And that's one of the qualifications that you have to have a CPR certificate.
And that's every 2 years,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
To be renewed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you hoping to dumb that down into like a week or less or anything like that? Or is 2 weeks really like the minimum?
The minimum is because, depending on, when you think about recovery and how many places the individual then lived, right? I know when I got my background check sometimes take about 2 weeks because I done lived in so many different cities and states. So, when you think about a background check, I mean, you just don't know.
Right.
So part of the vetting process is the background check. We had one individual, we didn't know when his background check was going to come in. So you can't start driving till we get that.
Gotcha.
Any other questions for Chris?
About the cost to the consumer, is it roughly the same cost as Uber or Lyft would maybe be for the comparable ride?
Yeah, it's basically the same cost when you think about gas and things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for sharing. How exciting, and thank you for reaching out and looking outside the box. Like Crystal said, that's amazing.
Check your check, Chris, please. Thank you.
If you haven't already, if everyone could please sign in the chat, put your name and what organization you're representing today, that would be great. And we'd love to see everybody's faces. If you have a camera, it's nice to see who we're talking to. Jeff, do you have any updates on anything you'd like to talk about?
I can share with the group here that we've looked at our rec cap results for the first 9 months, and the rec cap results are really pretty startling to me. They show that there's been an 80% increase in 9 months in recovery capital, an 80% increase, almost doubling of recovery capital within 9 months. The second thing that really stood out was the barriers to recovery. And there's been about 300 people that have taken the rec cap in Michigan. But the barriers recovery to the people after 9 months went from an average of 2 point something or other to 0. Went to 0. So the work that everybody on this call is doing to help people eliminate barriers to their recovery is it's working. And so if anybody needs a pat on the back, pat yourself on the back, because everybody here is doing great work and it shows. So yeah, I intend on taking that to the state of Michigan people and saying, hey, we need additional funding. Hey, we need additional help. Hey, I've got somebody down in Kalamazoo that's got a recovery Uber process. I need help with that. So all of those items are important to try to tell the people in the state of Michigan who write the checks, here's why we need some additional funds for rec cap. Here's why we need some additional funds for just keeping the lights on. Here's how we need additional funds for things like a recovery Uber program. This also is on rec cap. On rec cap, we tried to do something in Detroit with Deb Garrett, who I think is on this. You're here somewhere, right? Yeah. Anyway, we tried to do that. I'm going to try to ask anybody that's got a recovery home in the Detroit area to please check in with Echo Detroit. And they've got the peer recovery coaching there. They've got rec cap there. They've got peer navigators there. And it's going to be very important for everybody that's got a home in the greater Detroit area that doesn't have a peer navigator to be in contact with Deb Garrett and Echo Detroit. So having said that, that's the end of my monthly news.
Well, yeah, because Echo has a peer navigator, recovery coach that is willing to go to your recovery residents if you live in the surrounding Detroit area. And he will do the rec cap with the individuals. He will pick them up and bring them to Echo to have it done there. So, I mean, it's so for operators that have been having a difficult time trying to find a way to do the rec cap yourself, there's no reason not to do it now, because there's somebody that can do it for you to make sure that your residents are getting their recovery capital and increasing their recovery capital as being part of this. So, and remember, when the person actually leaves your program, they take that with them. That's information that they can take with them, and they can keep track of their own recovery capital, even when they're not in a recovery home anymore. And sometimes people's journey they end up back in a recovery home again. They've got that data. They've got that data, and they can start it up again, and they'll always be in the system to help them. So, anyone have any questions about what Jeff has spoken about so far?
You didn't have a question about that. Let me add one last thing that I forgot on my
No,
list.
so that was it.
I know. But I get a special exception. The recording of all the MARR Best Practices Conference that was held in Dearborn in last October, all of those were recorded, both the plenaries and also the breakout sessions, and they were just made available to us at MARR this past week. But everybody that's on this phone call, all the Michigan operators and all of the PIHP individuals are going to have access to those recordings. They're 34 hours in length, but I found them incredibly interesting, and they go all from on the breakout sessions. For those of you that were there at the conference, you had to pick between one of three different breakout sessions to go to. So by definition, if you were there live, you would have missed 2/3 of the breakout sessions. So this gives everybody an opportunity that were there to go back and say, oh, there's something else that was also of interest to me.
Is it set up, Jeff? Is it set up so
It's-
they can kind of pick and choose which one they want to see?
Yeah, it's set up. There'll be it's password protected, so there'll be a password that'll go, but it's all free. You can send it out to anybody you want to. You can have you can use it if you wanted to for any purpose that you would have for any type of group. You could have it for AA meetings or whatever you want to. There's a tremendous amount of information, both for affiliates, for the scientists, researchers, and for the operators, and for the individuals that just have a general interest in recovery. So now I'm done.
Do you know
Now,
if
this is free just for Michigan, correct?
Yeah.
So when you share, don't share to the other states. It's just for Michigan because we put on the conference.
Somebody from
so-
Ohio wants to gonna pay money, but other than that, everybody in Michigan's free. Yep.
How long is this available for? Now, at first I thought it was only going to be available for a few months. Is this going to be available long term now?
I've not heard that it'll ever be taken off, so I'm not aware that there's any time limit on it at all. And from my little bit of knowledge of how the system works, I would be surprised if it was time limited. Basically, everything goes and sits in a cloud somewhere, and these clouds are huge, so they don't ever have to out of the clouds. That's as near as I know about cloud technology.
Are we still waiting on like approval somewhere, or can I add the link to this and the post operator meeting email?
You can, but talk to me first because there's two different versions of the recordings, and I only want the one used, and the one that will be the password protected one.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Kayla, have any updates?
I do not have any updates. I really don't have much this month. The one thing I did want to bring up though is that I noticed there has been a little bit more involvement in our group chat on Facebook, or not our group chat, our little operator forum on Facebook, and that's awesome. But I'm also noticing that nobody's really responding to people that are posting on there. And we do have like 50 people on there, which is amazing. I'm really glad everyone's being able to be a part of it and has somewhere to post, but we also need interaction. Even if it's just to say like a kind word or a comment about what somebody said. People are like kind of going out on a limb and posting something in there and nobody's really responding to it, but people are seeing it. So I just wanted to ask if people could kind of interact a little bit more with the posts on the forum. That'd be incredibly helpful. And it would encourage more people to post if they know that others are going to reach out and respond to them. So that's
Awesome. And it's just for the operators. So,
yeah,
feel
it's
free,
only
ask
operators on there. So
questions.
it's basically you guys just talking to each other outside of these video chats. So
Yep. problem solve, you got a question about something that you're running into, and, you know, seek some advice from other operators and stuff. You can do it on here too. You know, if you got a question about something, something's going on with your program, and please feel free to speak up and say something so we can get some input from your peers. So, because most likely everybody else has gone through the same thing many times. Wally on here? No, he had trouble with his.
Wally's been having issues. I don't know if he's going to
Oh,
be able to
no.
share.
Yeah, his internet's been going in and out as well. And I know Kelly, I don't believe Kelly will be on today. So I want
Bad
to talk
luck
about
Zoom day. Apologies for all the technical difficulties, guys.
Operator of the Month. Operator of the Month is Live Right Properties. Live Right Properties has been with us for about 5 years now, and they're growing all the time. They have a lot of services that they have available for the community and for their residents. Is there somebody with Live Right Property on here today? We can talk about your program a little bit. No? Well, thank you and congratulations to Live Right Property. Awesome. So, yeah, this meeting is for you guys. So, anybody want to bring up a subject, anything going on with your program that you want to share, any positives, anything you're struggling with?
I have a question in relation to the mischief funding. Has anyone taken advantage of that? The grant that was sent out for recovery housing. Has anyone been able to utilize that for their recovery housing or?
Are you
I've
speaking
spoken-
about the new one? Where
Yes.
if you
300.
expand? Okay.
To expand, I'm looking at it
Yeah.
and I've been filling it out. It is very detailed. And from what I'm experiencing is it sounds like it's for the larger, more established organizations, because we're small and we've been around for a minute, but we're just relaunching in the last few months. So it's really detailed. I sit on the Kalamazoo Opioid Task Force. And one of the things that we were discussing was when there are grants that's available, how are we able to access those as small organizations and not have to jump through all of the loopholes and red tapes that more larger and established organizations, are able to go and say, well, I can get this out in 2 weeks, where when you're smaller, it may take us a little bit longer. Can we get an extension? So those are some of the things we've talked about at the task force, and I see that playing out in this larger grant. So I'm looking at it, but I don't know if we'll even be able to utilize it in the time frame that they've given us even to fill it out.
So, hi, I'm Candy from Fresh Coast Alliance. For the last 2 years, we've been part of a pilot with MISHDA on recovery housing grants. And we're not huge. We have 6 houses and we're in Muskegon. But it is I'm not going to lie to you guys, it is a time-consuming process to turn in everything every month to get the reimbursements. It's work. It's been a lot of work, and we're discussing right now if we're going to be reapplying for it. I know it's due on the 22nd, so that's coming up, and every day I spend a little bit of time on it. But it's a significant amount of work for only 10% admin fee or 5% admin fee that you can get from it. But it can help. Like, it helped us for a season get 2 more houses to rent so we could expand our beds. But they're not houses. It can't be used for mortgage payments, so it can only be paid for somebody, and that person can't work for your organization. So there's lots of layers, because they didn't want people just applying, buying a house and then not using it appropriately, like getting rid of recovery housing. But it's a lot of work, and I'm willing to speak honestly about it if you guys have questions, because I've been overseeing it for the last 9 months of our 2 years.
I have
Well,
a
thank
lot
you
of
for
questions.
sharing that.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, Candace, and thanks, Brenda. Even if Brenda, you working through it, we in the same area, so I would love to even talk to you. But I did reach out to them and had extensive conversations back and forth, and admin was the only bucket that seemed suitable to me for recovery housing. Some of the other buckets was they were asking us to, so we're about to break ground on building a quadplex independent living, and they were asking us that we had to create leases for the residents to get the reimbursement for the funding. And I just found that kind of difficult to do in a recovery housing setting. I just felt like that. Yeah, they said we had to create a lease
for the residents, which
for
is
the
the last
residents.
thing you want to do, right? Because
No, but yeah,
we're bound by
exactly.
landlord-tenant laws, and having a
Exactly.
lease can set you up. So
Yeah.
that's odd. First I've heard of that.
I can add something to that conversation. One is I spoke to Nicole Beagle at MISTA, and
She's amazing.
oh yeah, she's fantastic. Anyway, the requirement in writing said that they needed to have an audit. So any successful applicant would need to have an audit. Well, I know that MARR had 2 years with audits. It's $80,000. So that's a kind of a big expense, right?
Yeah.
And Catherine's still shaking from that. But anyway,
Yes.
Paul said, oh, she didn't really mean to, they don't really mean to say the word audit. So a review, which is a CPA review, which if you got, let's say you got $500,000 to $1 million organization, that's going to cost you somewhere around $3,000 to $5,000 for their annual review. So that was a diminishment in their requirements. And it's set up as a lease on the theory that that was probably the least organizational difficult requirement that they would have. So it's a lease. The only issue on the lease was the 30% of the funds had to be spent by end of September. But you could do that by entering into the with the leasehold with the landlord, the owner, something that says, notwithstanding anything here to the contrary, 30% of the rental payments will be paid on or before October 1st of 2024. So those things all can be done. And you're right. It's not something, this grant opportunity is more in line for an established organization that's had maybe a review or two, that maybe has more than 1 or 2 houses, that hopefully has somebody with a bookkeeping or an accounting background. Because it's like anything else, if they're from the government, they say, I'm here to help you. It's like, okay, well, they're here to help you, but they're going to have some strings attached to those things, right? And those strings are going to cost you some money. As Chris pointed out, their administrative, I think, was either 5% or 6%, a low dollar amount. So there's money that's available. I know of at least 2 organizations that are in the process of or have completed their applications. My hope is that we can get maybe 10 or so organizations, hopefully spread out throughout the state of Michigan, that could qualify for the grant. And the grant, the time frame for that is coming up pretty soon, right?
Yeah, it's due on the 22nd of this month.
Yeah. Right. So
And
when I say
they also do a monthly meeting like this with all the operators who are involved in the recovery specific.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and we're in the process at a Mother's Touch in attempting to apply for this as well. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And if anybody has, I'm not a grant specialist, but I'm a lawyer and I've had some background with this. So if anybody wants to have a free review done by Uncle Jeff, just send me an email. I'll be happy to look at it for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
Not a problem.
Subject. Anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about? We got like 6 minutes left. Anything special going on with your program you want to share? Anything you're struggling with? Nothing? Everybody's perfect? Okay. Well, I'm going to let everybody have a few more minutes left of your day. Thank you so much for attending and have a wonderful rest of your week. Hopefully see all of you at UFAM rally. Sign up. Still got time. You too, Chris.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.